Yeah, man. So, it's only 9:45. We don't have more people. Did Terrence come back? Hey, I heard Terrence can chat, but he apparently can't talk. So when you want to say something, Terrence,
hey guys, I'm making breakfast for my
Hey,
daughter.
my brother. How you doing?
How you guys doing, man? I hail from the most worshipful Prince Hall Grand Lodge of Illinois.
Oh, hey.
So definitely glad to be in here with you guys, man. I'm just trying to whip for my
daughter. I don't want to interrupt. I understand. I made sure I got my coffee before this time.
Bro, Terrence,
can we see you on camera for just a sec, just so we can say hi? Then you can go back to your.
Hey, I actually do not have a shirt on.
Okay, then.
Give me like 2 minutes.
All right. I mean, I try not, and John and I were talking about this, about like letting people in and how restrictive we are. I think Brian's asked me as well. Let me make you the co-host while I'm sitting here.
Thank you.
The co-host, yes. I wish I could do that in advance, but I can't, unless I want to pay for the privilege, I think. Yeah. I can pre-assign hosts if they're paid members, and I'm the only paid member on this account. It's like, sorry, love you, but I'm not going to pay money to do it. I'll just sit here and do that. That's much quicker. But anyway, yeah, Brian helps us being the co-host. There he is. Good to see you, Terrence.
Hey, Terrence, what lodge are you from?
Cornerstone Lodge number 91. It's Prince Hall Grand Lodge.
No, I know who you guys are.
You do?
I know who you guys are.
Do you know Illinois? Yeah.
I know one of your past Grand Masters. He came when I gave a lecture at Pleiades Lodge down on the south side.
And you know what? Your face looks really familiar to me because I frequent Pleiades a lot, man.
Yeah.
Well, look at his profile pic, because he don't look anything like his profile pic. The first time we chatted, John, I'm like, okay, I vaguely see the similarity, but you had like this Carl Sagan kind of look back then, and
billions of stars.
That's it.
I love Sagan. I still watch Cosmos. I've actually spoken at Eternal Light Lodge years ago.
That's great.
How long have you been a Mason?
Only about 3 years now. I'm still.
Oh, no. I've been in Europe. I've been in Bulgaria for the past over 3 years. I know we probably have a lot of the same contacts.
Is that cool?
For sure. I frequent Hesperia a lot. Pleiades.
Pleiades, I know those guys real well. I've spoken a couple of times. I know Charlie Harper.
Okay.
He's in Texas now. Do you know? Hold on. My wife and I'm not in the credits of the book, but Harper's old book, Freemasonry in Black and White. Here it is. We edited that.
Oh, nice, man. That's super nice.
I couldn't, because I was working at Department of Labor at the time, I couldn't have my name on anything that was moonlighting, so my wife's the only one, but can you see? That's my wife right there. Rosita Meek.
Nice. Yeah, Charles is his brother, man.
No, I love Harper. We went through the York Rite together. That's how I met him.
Nice.
And he invited me to speak at Pleiades the one night when he was master, and he's like, come on over and give education. Okay, fine. And I show up, and there's a bunch of Prince Hall guys, and the one guy had a bunch of gold on him. I'm like, come here.
Right,
What's that? That's the Grand Master. I'm going to kill you. You should have warned me.
That's great.
But I must have done something right, because he's like, if you want to come speak at one of our lodges, come on over. And that's how I got over to Eternal Light.
That's perfect, man. I actually, our current Grandmaster, I like what he does, man. He's making it, how do I put it, an overt effort to make sure that Prince Hall and Grand Lodge of Illinois kind of use our trials, so to speak. And me still being kind of fresh, I like that, man, because I know every state doesn't do that, but at least I know in Illinois, like, my Masonic experience has been heightened because I'm able to visit, Grand Lodge of Illinois and Prince Hall Grand Lodges and compare and contrast. It's super dope, man.
No, that's the thing, because you guys have a completely the ritual's almost identical, but your lineage is completely different, because I think you're Irish or something, aren't you?
Exactly. Prince Hall, I believe the story is that he was initiated in an Irish military lodge.
Yeah. but that's a whole different line of Masonry than the Illinois, because Illinois ultimately is English.
Exactly. But I do think, I will say, even though Prince Hall was initiated in an Irish military lodge, I do believe that African Lodge #1 received their charter from the United Grand Lodge of England.
Okay,
So the Irish Lodge may have been, how we start.
that's the mother, but they was still chartered from. Okay.
Exactly.
No, but the thing is, we should be working closer together, doing like joint events and stuff because it's, I mean, okay, different lineage, different jurisdiction, of course, but I mean, there should be like, why don't you guys have like congresses over there, like joint congresses between Illinois and Prince Hall?
To be honest, I'm not sure. I asked a lot of those questions, man.
Are we friends on Facebook here? Hold on, let me see if I don't know.
I think, John, I think like in the U.S., we do tend to invite like the Prince Hall Grandmaster to attend our Grand Lodge and vice versa. And we did that. Even Virginia finally recognized Prince Hall of Virginia, I think in 90, 95, something like that. And I remember prior to that, they would invite the Grandmaster to attend. We actually had at least, I think, 1, maybe 2 sessions at Virginia Research Lodge where they asked the Prince Hall brothers to come in, and we had a past Grandmaster and like the Grand Secretary, and they spoke. And that was really cool because we all got to sit in lodge together, but we're still kind of at this structured point where you had to go through the Grand Lodge and coordinate it to have a joint meeting.
Exactly.
And we're slowly moving in a more friendly direction, but at the time. But the coolest part was we're just sitting there after his talk, and we decided to open up for questions. So we're just asking, just back and forth, just asking the brothers to stand up. And, one of the Prince Hall brothers stood up and said, okay, I got to ask, what is going on with y'all? I see sport coat. I see loud shirt, loud tie, all of these colors. We are black suit, white shirt, black tie, black. What is with you?
Hey, Brother
Prince
Douglas,
Hall,
you are correct.
I never thought of it that way, but it was like, yeah, we do look like car salesmen to you, don't we?
Prince Hall follows the European tradition of a black suit, white shirt, black, because that's what we do over here.
Right.
You can't walk into a Brother Tommy, Brother Domenico. Hey, guys.
Yeah. Let me go ahead and welcome some of our guys who came in. We've been going back and forth here. Brother Al Davis, good to have you here. You want to say hi, tell us what lodge you're from?
Hey all, how you doing? Al Davis, past master, Roosevelt Lodge, 42, Rhode Island. And
excellent.
past master, Thomasville, 369, Thomasville, Georgia.
Oh, great. And Brother Terry, you want to say hello? You got to unmute.
Yeah, there we go. Can you hear me now? Like a Sprint commercial.
Brother Terry.
My good friend John, Brother John. Tommy Terry. I am past master of Brahan Lodge number 226 in the great state of Texas.
Oh, that's great.
God bless Texas.
All right. And Brother
Amen.
Robson, I met you on Facebook a couple times. Good to have you here. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Peace.
All right. Welcome back. Brother Missick.
No, I got it.
Okay. Hey,
Sorry.
can you put us on your camera just for a sec? Just say hi. I don't mind y'all putting up your logos. I really don't, but I want people to at least say hi once so we can see you. Hey.
Good morning.
Hold on a second.
We can report you to the authorities as needed.
There's a reason the camera was off. I'm not suited up in my black and white.
Oh, okay, that's right. Well,
He was like me. He just got out the shower.
good to have you. What lodge you hail from, Brother Robson?
So Hiram number 105 of New York, past master, current secretary, which I regarded as a promotion.
All right. Good to see you here. Brother Georges, good to see you again, my brother.
Good morning. Good morning, brother.
We're starting to get regulars. And from our CNN affiliate, or our ESPN affiliate, Brother John Felty with sports. Good to see you, John. I think John has the best picture of all of us. I love that. I feel like I'm watching ESPN or something. And of course, I don't watch ESPN, so but I understand the concept.
I don't even
So-
have ESPN.
All right, brother Marcone.
Yes. Hi. Hi. Nice to meet you.
Ah, come
introduce yourself.
on.
Domenico Marcone, Romanian National Grand Lodge 1880.
Nice.
And
Nice.
where?
Romania, Bucharest.
Romania.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. Good to have you here, brother.
Hi.
Hey, there's brother Shelby, one of my fellow Research Lodge brothers here in Virginia. Good to have you here, brother. On mute. I think I like you better on mute, but that's just me.
How about that?
Hey, all right. Nah, I like you mute
Doing, my
better. It's all right. Good to have you.
Thanks, brother.
All right. Brother Harpold, good to have you here. Can you please introduce yourself?
Clayton Harpold, Cranberry 598 in northwestern North Carolina.
Oh, very good. Cranberry. I like that.
This is near the ski resorts, Beach Mountain and Sugar Mountain.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So is Cranberry named for a city or town in North Carolina, or just cranberries in general?
It was a little mining town, and we were it had the largest magnetite deposit in the world. And then when the little railroad washed out in a 1940s flood, the town died and everything else.
Okay.
But the town is there. It's not as what it was.
Right. That's cool. I'll say that I always like to brag. We have a last year. I started a Lodge of the Day to catalog all the Virginia lodges, because it occurred to me there are 300 or so lodges, 365 days in the year. Am I up to the challenge of going in every day on Facebook and posting something interesting? Started with Norfolk #1 and going all the way through in numbers through all the lodges in Virginia that are active. And it was really neat having to do a little bit of research every morning just to find something from the Grand Lodge website or that lodge website if they had one, or their Facebook page. Rarely, they usually don't have a history on the Facebook page, but I could always find some tidbit to say about each lodge. And one of the coolest things is what a lodge is named for, because normally it's named for a town, or it's named for a part of town, or it's named for some other landmark in the area. And then sometimes it's named for a person. And the person that, there weren't even always a Mason. It was maybe some famous mayor or local celeb or something. But it's really cool to look at all the different lodge names, what was important to the members at that time to make your lodge distinctive and name it for something that anybody in town would recognize, but somebody else is like, well, I never heard of Cranberry or whatever. But for the locals, I'm sure it always made sense what they named it for. But then you go to the members 150 years later. I remember asking someone, like, Taylor Lodge, who are you? Because, well, Taylor was named after a president. But like, I go to some lodges and I ask them, like, who is your lodge named for? And the members today have no idea. I mean, they literally, it's like, I don't know. I've gone and looked it up. It's like, I don't know who this guy was. I assume it was a guy. I don't know. So that's always kind of fun. To go looking up where the names come from and all the wide variety of names for Masonic bodies. I think that's really kind of neat.
Yeah, you should be commended for that. You did it every single day last year.
I did.
And
I missed one day.
congratulations.
I missed one day because I was working my second job and I had to go on site and I couldn't do it. I had to go in at like 6 a.m. So I didn't do it before I went in. And I said, well, when I get home, I'll do it. And I got home, totally forgot about it. And then it was like 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, oh, crap. I only missed like one day.
I didn't catch that, but yeah, I thought that you had it down.
I had, well, I didn't like brag. Oh yeah, I missed one. No, I just kind of did one the next day and no one ever called me on it, but
It took great discipline.
yeah. I tell you what, mid-October, I was so relieved to do Black Keith, I think was the last one, 392, whatever it was. I was so relieved, like, okay, I don't have to do this every day. I can just go back to the weekly papers. That was enough work. So, but yeah, it was a fun challenge. And anybody else want to take that up? I encourage you to do it, and you will learn more about Masonry in your state. And that's the thing, like, I mean, I try to get this across to people. Yes, I know I'm giving benefit to everybody here who reads the research papers, and you all are learning and you're all in the groups, and this is all great. But selfishly, I learn more from researching. I'm thinking I'm getting more out of it than anybody who reads what I do, because personally, I'm having to dig and learn more and educate myself on it. So I'm getting a huge benefit from it. So if you're interested in research, just jump in and do it. Find a topic, dive in and do it. It's much more rewarding than you would think. So, you know, yes, I know you all are enjoying it, and that's wonderful, and that's the whole point, but I'm getting a lot out of it too. So just so you know, this isn't a purely altruistic thing. I'm getting a lot out of it on my own. So let's see, we got people joining left and right here. Brother John London is here. He is our marshal from Virginia Research Lodge. Morning, John.
I think he's on silent.
Yep. He's not muted. I know he's on his phone, but he does make an effort to attend. For those of you who are keeping score, I am still the junior deacon of Virginia Research Lodge. We decided, in consulting with our district deputy and the Grand Master's edict on not having meetings of more than 10 people, we are not going to have our February meeting. We didn't have our stated in December, so we all agreed to stay in place. So Right Worshipful will remain as our worshipful master. Rooster, who's on here regularly, is still senior warden. I'm going to stay junior deacon and so on. So we're all staying in place for another year. We're not bothering with an annual, because it's really not fair if we open up in like May and put in Rooster for like half a term. So we all decided just to stay in the full year, and hopefully next December we can have our annual and install the new officers, and we all move up, which I thought was, at this point, that's the best course of action. But we'll still be having our weekly meetings, and we were trying to figure out a way, if we met in person in February, to have the meeting up there. We'll meet and then go out in the dining area, and I'll set up and we'll host it from there. We may do that if we do one in May or August, or whatever. We'll see what happens. But the members of Research Lodge are staying in place. I know y'all were dying to find out the latest on that.
Hey, Brother
That's
Chris.
where we are. Yes, go ahead.
Real quick, I have to do that. I have to do this plug.
Please.
I want to send, as Worshipful Master of the George Washington Lodge of Research, I want to extend a fraternal greetings to the brethren of the Virginia Research Lodge.
Thank you.
There, I said it.
You have at least two of us here, so you met your quota. And so did you just get installed again, or?
Yes, because of all the stuff that was going on with COVID-19, it became necessary for the master to step down for personal reasons. And we were kind of like in a last minute rush, and it was agreed that if anybody can get their warden certificate quickly, it would be me. Okay. So we did it, got it rather quickly, and got installed right before they shut everything down.
Okay. So you met you said in January or December?
December.
Okay, that's right.
Early December. Then it's like the Friday right afterwards came the ruling to shut everything down.
Right. Okay.
So it was right before that.
Okay. Well, well, congratulations. And this is, so you've done this before, right? You were master before of.
I was the charter master of the Research Lodge.
Okay. Well, we appreciate
the very first,
you.
and that was about almost 10 years ago. No, 9 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Well, you do good work. We appreciate it, and I'd like to get more of your papers. You only had a handful online, and we grabbed them and put them on our page too. So if you have more, I'd like to get more and publish.
I have more coming.
Excellent.
I have more coming.
Excellent. For those who don't know, the Research Lodge has, there are 5 research lodges in Virginia currently, and we support each other. Virginia Research Lodge, I think, has the biggest presence online. So we want to make sure we help the other research lodges. Most of them put their papers online, not all of them do, and we're trying to get all of them in sync. And the Grand Master is pushing to have some sort of central database of research papers from other research lodges. And I'll say this, they're slow going in setting one up on their website. And I keep telling the district deputy, I said, look, I have a website. I have a repository. I have a search engine. If you just want to ask the other research lodges to send them to us, we'll be happy to host them all, or at least point to theirs on their site so it's in one central place. And that's, I mean, to me, that's simpler since the Grand Lodge hasn't bothered to build their website up to the point where they could host them. So they seem to be okay with that idea. So we want to try and make it possible to list all of them, and so people can get access to them. But like A. Douglas Smith has had all theirs online for a while, but they don't really have a search. It's kind of hard to find. But we just want to make these papers available because we all have years and years and years of papers that we want to make available to Masonry around the world. So this is a really cool thing we're doing to make these available to y'all. Morning, Brother Spence. So you
Good morning, Brother Douglas. Very nice to see everyone.
Yes.
I think my friend Brian Smith's co-hosting and helping you a bit, so that's good.
Yep. And Brother Glenn Cook, another one of my Facebook friends, long time. Good to see you in person, sir.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here. Yes.
I think my friend Brother George Ashram's on. There you go.
I see him. Brother Hughes. Yep,
Yeah.
quite a few. We're up to 27. I think we're going to chat for a few more minutes and then introduce our speaker. I want to get everybody time to get in. Brother Missick, I saw you come in. I tried to say hello and then we lost you in the conversation. Can you please unmute and say hello, introduce yourself?
Okay. Hey, I'm from BD Lodge 35. I'm most worshipful Union Grand Lodge of Florida. It's Prince Hall affiliate. And I'm happy to be here with y'all.
Good. Glad to have you. I don't think I'll be able to introduce everybody. I try to at least introduce everybody when there's only like 10 or 12 of us. If I miss you, I'm sorry, but I want to at least say hello to as many people as I can. This group is growing, and that's wonderful. I'm so glad so many of you are here. We are hosting, if you haven't figured out by now, my name is Chris Douglas. I am your humble host. Brian Smith, right there. Probably not right there on your screen, but he's there on my screen. He is my co-host, so he's helping me let people in and so on. This is Virginia Research Lodge number 1777's weekly unstated meeting. Since it goes without saying, we can't have a stated, it's unstated, that this is not a stated. That's my joke, and I'm sticking to it. And we would like to welcome everybody here. If you are not a member of our Facebook group, we welcome you to join. And we meet every Saturday at 10 a.m. as long as I can find the time to make it here and I can line up speakers. We do have a poll. I'm asking people to go to the website, to the group page, and answer the poll on what you would like to see us do, because we have, I'm trying to talk while I surf. We have a number of, let's see, make this everyone, I'm putting in the group chat our page for the Research Lodge Facebook. I try to line up speakers. I'm into March now with speakers, and I'm booked up. We're doing good, but I want to leave some of them open going forward, and I want to have some meetings where we just sort of have like a general chat. Like I ask a question of everybody in the room, and everybody has to answer the question. And I may announce the topic in advance, and some people like the idea of not announcing in advance. So just, we're going to open the meeting, and I won't tell you, and I'll just hit you all with the question in the meeting, which I think might actually be fun. But I am totally open to more ideas. This is totally off the cuff. I'm making this up as I go along. So any suggestions on what we can do to make it more fun, more interesting, I definitely want to hear it. I want to make this an enjoyable time and not so stuffy. I mean, I want this to be enjoyable. We're going to learn some good Masonic education, but I want everybody to enjoy it and to come back. So I'm going to be trying a lot of different things. And if it don't work, it don't work. People seem to like the panel discussions, so we'll be having more of those, but I want to try and get everybody more involved. And so by all means, take the poll. If you have any suggestions, just go to our group page and say, hey, can you maybe do this or something? I love to hear from y'all, but I'm happy to keep making stuff up on my own, but I'm always open to more suggestions from y'all on what to do. So any brother, let's see, I want to see if I need to introduce anybody that I know that I've seen. We do have 27 people. I think we're 10 after. I think we're about ready to start. I think it's everyone that I know. Hey, Brother Joyner, I know you. Good to see you. Okay. And we kind of killed enough time. I was going to ask a question, but I think I'll save that for another time since we have a good crowd now and I want to go and get to our speaker. I'm going to let him introduce himself. Before we go to our speaker, does anybody have any kind of announcement or anything? Anybody really want to say hello, introduce themselves? You're welcome to, but anybody has a question before we go to our speaker? We got a couple more people coming in. If not, I will ask that you mute. I'm going to go ahead and mute you all for you, but please mute yourself when we have our speaker. Cut down on the background chatter there. Okay. Well, we got 29, so I think we're about ready to start. I'm a terrible host and I did not prepare anything. So Brother John Meek, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself. It's easier, and that way I don't get the pronunciations wrong. So this is Brother John Meek, and he's going to go and introduce himself, and then he will launch into his talk.
And since it's being recorded, I promise to behave.
Okay.
Kind of.
Just a little bit. All right.
Yeah, you know. First of all, to the most worshipful brother, right worshipful brothers, honorable brothers, and friends and guests, because first of all, thank you for coming. Second of all, thank you for having me and putting up with me. John Meek, the basics of who I am. I'm from DC Grigir Lodge in Illinois, DC Grigir number 1, past master there, and honorary member of Makedonska Zora number 24 here in Bulgaria. Right now I'm the sitting grand representative. Hey, kiddo. Right now I'm the sitting grand representative to both Russia and Bulgaria, United Grand Lodge of Bulgaria, to be exact, for the Grand Lodge of Illinois, and I'm a member of way too many appendant bodies for the same person to be a member of. I've been a Mason, I think, let's see, I got my 3rd degree January of 2006, so what would that make me, 15 years now? Master Mason, something like that. And this thing is beeping. So those are the basics. I guess at this point I sort of qualify as a Masonic author. I wrote this book, which is basically the outline for the talk. I co-authored actually Emiliano's the brains behind it. So I helped him write the Italian Symbolic Rite book. It's the only book in English on it. It's an Italian appendant body. With the help of Honorable Brother Tommy Terry, who is actually here today. Thank you for coming. I wrote the Best Little Lodge Hall in Texas, which is more of a photo album of a very particular lodge down in Texas, and it's got a lecture from Honorable Brother Terry in it on the history. It's a historical lecture, very good one. But today's talk is a holistic approach to Freemasonry. And this is a Cliff Notes version of my current book, and this is my hang up with Freemasonry. First of all, before I get too far into this, any guests who are not Masons who are watching this, I hope you hear something positive here. Ultimately, we are, in my opinion, a fraternity and a mentoring system. That's the easiest way to say what we are. And this talk handles a lot more of the nuts and bolts operational stuff. And this is my opinion. This is not backed by any Grand Lodge, and I haven't asked for a backing from a Grand Lodge. This is just me on my soapbox writing a book while standing on a soapbox, mind you. So with that, let's get into this, and I will be referring to my own books. I'm getting senile in my old age. Now, the background to this book, reason why I wrote this, I started this, I want to say it was probably like a junior deacon actually in my original lodge, which merged into DC Gregere. And I noticed a lot of guys join, but you don't see a whole lot of guys coming back. So me liking to pick at everything I see, I started wondering why. And I threw together a pretty hot-headed book. For those of you who've read the new edition, this is very much toned down. And actually, to be honest with you, the direction changed quite a bit, because as I moved up the officer's line from, starting as a steward, then at that point a junior deacon or whatever, up to the sitting master, I went from having the attitude that if you're not what's the buzz term of an esoteric Mason, you're not serious. That's the attitude I walked in with. And by the time I was 1 week a sitting master, I realized that couldn't be further from the truth. There are many different kinds of Masons, and we all work together for the same thing. And then when I moved to Europe and ended up dealing on an interjurisdictional level, that really changed how I deal with things and think about things. So that precipitated a complete rewrite of this book. So it went from a real hot-headed young Mason's reflections on things to how I've looked at it and throwing out some suggestions and how we can keep those new guys coming back. Because again, the same basic question is, number one, why aren't the new guys coming back? Number two, okay, once we get the new guys and get them coming back, how we get more new guys that are worth anything? So those are the two questions that I'm asking in this book, and they're two sides of the same coin. So the only way to deal with this is holistically from the ground up, and that's where we start with the Tenants of Freemasonry, which basically everybody has the same tenets, whether we word it the same or not, because if you go from one place to another, everybody does it differently, and we'll get into that later. The tenets of the basic tenets I'm proposing here, which is how I was taught it in Illinois and how I've pretty much seen it anywhere I've been so far, are brotherly love, relief, and truth. Brotherly love is the reason what we're doing everything for. We're here why are we Mason? What's the purpose of creation? To love God and love our neighbor, regardless of who he is. But we also have to start at home with our brother Masons. So we're brotherly love. This is what informs, this is the basis for everything we do. And if we love each other, we're going to do things, which is relief. We have a primary, of course, responsibility to each other as Masons to help each other out. I mean, we're brothers. That's what brothers do. We help each other out, But we also have that same obligation to non-Masons, and that's why we have things like the shrine, the widow's sons, the grotto. And in fact, again, 10 years ago, if you asked me what are the most important bodies in Masonry, I would have told you the Masonic Rectified Right and SRIA and all those other groups. Flashing forward 10 years or 15, whatever, now my attitude's completely switched. Those orders are very important and they're absolutely necessary. We need them desperately. However, our crowning jewels are actually the shrine, the widow's sons, and the grotto. Why? Because they give us means to go out there and make the world a better place. We're good men trying to make ourselves better and in the process make other people have an easier life out there. And these are the groups doing it primarily. I mean, of course, the Templars have the eye thing, the Scottish Rite, I think it's dyslexia and all that. But the ones that are very much charity oriented are the shrine. So we can't forget these guys. Those are at the spearhead of what we're doing with this brotherly love and relief. Okay. Now, where do we get all these ideas of what's good brotherly love? To Brother Jones, I'm very sorry. I don't know the meaning of the grotto symbol. I'm not a member. I'm very sorry. But
I think he wants a synopsis of what the grotto is.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, synopsis.
Yeah.
The synopsis, the grotto is like the shrine. Okay. The grotto is very much like the shrine, except they do dental work for kids with mental disabilities, whether it's Asperger's, developmental delay kind of thing, those sorts of things. They supply dental work. Okay, so it's like the shrine, but for dental work for kids with different sorts of disabilities. That's what the grotto is, essentially. No problem. Thank you for asking. So the brotherly love is our heart. The relief is how we go project ourselves out into the world. But how do we know what to do? This is where the tenet of truth comes in, and it's what I call the silent partner of the three tenets. This is what the grand architect draws on the heavenly tracing board for us to follow. That's why we have a volume of sacred law. You know, this is what, you know, not necessarily specifically as Masons, but this is what we ask the grand architect to direct our work in. This is the truth we seek. What does he want us to do to make ourselves better and the world around us? So the basis, brotherly love, relief, and truth. But how do we get to that point of living these tenets? Well, in the specifically Masonic way, because let's face it, Masonry is not the only game in town. I mean, we have, you know, I always joke, Masons, Martinus, and Elks, oh my. On top of it, we have Rotary, which is huge over here, Knights of Columbus. Everybody's doing stuff to help each other out. But how do we do it Masonically? Well, we have our rituals and other things, and this is where we're going to start, the lodge. That's where we first come into Masonry, is in the lodge hall. Now, and inside that lodge hall, let's go a little Doctor Who here. You might want to say there's a mental plane in the lodge hall. The lodge. When we talk, oh, I'm going to lodge, going to lodge, going to lodge. We don't even use the definite article in English. Not going to the lodge, we're going to lodge, you know. Lodge is a specific, I almost refer to it as a plane. When we open the lodge, we're elevating ourselves to another plane of thought, of consciousness, so we can do degree work, so that we can set the little bricks up so that we can do esoteric work. The ritual, the initiating, you know, in English, the initiating, the passing, the raising, basically the 3 degrees that we do, you know, that's setting the groundwork. You know, and because this is a public domain, I'm not going to go into the nuts and bolts, but we all know what we're talking about. This is the groundwork. This is the basis. And as we continue to do these rituals of initiation, we're building the egregore of the lodge. And for those who don't know the buzzword of egregore, that's the spirit of an organization. Okay, we meet together, you know, once a month or whatever it is. We go do our degree work, pay our bills, argue over the bills, and then go have dinner afterwards. That builds up a certain spirit. If you ever walked into a building and said, man, you know, this place feels like whatever. It's either really comfortable, really peaceful, really creepy, whatever. That's the spirit of the place. That's arguably the egregore that we're trying to build up. And that's the heart, and that's the spiritual soul of the institution of Masonry, is that egregore. And you want a healthy egregore. So you want to be doing your degree work right. You know, nobody's going to be perfect. Of course not. You know, I have my tinfoil hat theory. Unfortunately, I don't have my tinfoil hat with me. But I have my tinfoil hat theory that, you know, when I went through Masonry in Illinois, and most Americans, I believe, memorize everything. But there was always one line in every degree I forgot. No matter what position I had, I always forgot one line, like clockwork. Well, we're not perfect. It's the heart and the soul that we put into it. It's that intention that we put. We're going to take this new kid and make him the best Mason, you know, to bring him into Masonry the best way we know how, and build on it so that he can in turn do the interior work and exterior work. Again, don't forget, let's not forget the Shriners and those guys, to make himself a better person in the world around him. And so that's what our degree rituals are. They're starter points. And then the opening and closing of lodges. Those are, for the Americans in the crowd, that's what I call the Cliff Notes of Masonry. Because if you look at how the opening and the closes, it goes through different little things that we learned in the degree rituals. And for the Europeans, cliff notes are basically, if you have a novel that you have to read when you're in university, the lazy students, including me, would go out and buy these set of really short notes. So if you have a 500-page novel, the cliff notes might be like 75 pages, and you read that and do your test according to that. And that's what I propose the opening and the closing rituals of the stated meetings are. Those are the cliff notes. You can't, they're little reminders. Okay, this is, what we do, this is who we are, and this is what we strive to be. And, the prayers also, hammer this home. So we have the lodge being a sacred space within which we do these rituals. You open the lodge, even in the degree work, you open the lodge, you're opening that sacred space so we can enter it and step outside of the mundane world. If for the guys who've been in Europe and Africa and Asia, you hear us talking about the profane world, or referring to non-Masons as the profanes. It's not being mean, it just means they're part of the world. We're stepping outside of the world into a specific spot so that we can do those degrees, so that we can make that guy a Mason, okay? And build up our egregore and go back out in the world and help those people. That's what the lodge as a sacred space is. It's our operating space. And that's why we have to open a lodge with a ritual and close a lodge with a ritual. It's like, you're walking around, you're setting your parameters, basically. If we weren't doing this, it'd be walking into a water buffalo meeting. Hey, Fred. Hey, Barney. And go ahead, sit down, put on your funny hat, and let's get to the meeting. We wouldn't have openings. There's a lot of good fraternal organizations that don't have them, but that's why we have them. We're working in sacred space. But talking about sacred space, there's also underpinnings, there's intelligence, there's ideas behind this. There's information being passed along within the sacred space. And this information, I suggest we can break into two categories. One is esoterism, two is philosophy. And for the guys who have studied theology, there's a great, actually I say he's more of a philosopher, but either way, he's brilliant. There was a guy named Thomas Aquinas. He always said philosophy was a handmaid of theology. I say the same thing about esoterism. Philosophy is a handmaiden of esoterism. Esoterism is that personal interior experience that we have going through the degrees, contemplating the symbols, trying to pass on through word of mouth mentoring. It's the internal information that only the heart can understand. Philosophy, on the other hand, that's writing it down in a structured way so that we can pass it down to the next generation. Okay, and you need both, and both are distinct. In fact, like I said, the easiest way to look at it is esoterism is interior, personal, action-based. Philosophy are the books. I would even go so far as to say, like those guys who know who I'm talking about, Agrippa or John Dee, these, I would say, everybody, oh, they're esoterists. Well, yeah, they're handing down esoteric ideas, but ultimately it's philosophy because they're putting it into an intellectual realm, a needed intellectual realm, but still it's at the service of the esoterism. And that's why we need to study as Masons so that our mind can grasp the spiritual truths that the Masonic esoterism is, or esoteric Masonry is holding within it. We study our rituals. Most jurisdictions have some kind of little ritual book, whether it's written out or it's a cipher or it's a mixture of both. If your jurisdiction has one, get it, study it, learn it. Number one, chances are you have to memorize it if you're an American Mason. But even if you don't, even if we're here in Europe, study and learn the degree work, because that's where all the basis of everything else we're studying is. That's what's all gelled down to. And on top of studying our own rituals, visit other lodges, not only other lodges, but other jurisdictions. And esoteric versus exoteric. Let me finish my rant and I'll get right to it, Brother Jones. Actually, I'll do it real quick. Exoteric is the exterior. Brother Terrence Jones asked about esoteric versus exoteric. Exoteric is the exterior presentation of the ideas. Esoteric is the hidden interior truth of it. Thank you for asking, brother. But study,
John,
yeah.
John, can you explain what esotericism is?
Oh,
I have
I'm
an
sorry.
idea, but you missed
Okay.
that.
The way I define esotericism is that's the interior personal experience that's wrapped up in that's contained within the experience of the ritual and contained within the writings of Masonic, well, not just our philosophy, but other forms of philosophy. That's okay. What does ritual, I'll explain it this way. What does ritual do? Ritual keeps our minds, bodies, and everything else busy so that our heart can do what it needs to do. Okay. You know, that's essentially, that's my definition of theurgy too. Everything else is busy so that the heart can pray and do whatever, you know. And esotericism is, there's different sides of it. It's one of those, again, Doctor Who, it's a timey-wimey thing as far as I'm concerned. It's, on the one hand, it's the interior truths behind the symbols. Why are we doing this in the degree? Why do we have a square and compass and a rocker for the past masters? Why do we have this? Why do we have that? We have the exoteric symbols. Well, because, you know, because the lectures that go back to what the square does, the compasses do, and all this, that's the exoteric. The esoteric is the interior symbols that are handed down mentor to student. Okay, and I think that's where a great amount of disconnect can be, and often is, because the lack of mentorship, but we'll get into that in a minute. So in a nutshell, esotericism is the interior spiritual work. It's the contemplation of the symbols. It's the verbal passing on of these spiritual truths. Does that answer the question? Not only for you, but for Brother Terrence. Okay. Like I said, this is a timey-wimey kind of a thing. It's always been hard for me to explain. So with that in mind, if everybody's clear on that, we're good? Okay. So study one's own ritual. Go to as many degrees as you can. Go to other jurisdictions that have variations. In America, everybody does like a variation, I think, of the Preston Webb. So go to Illinois, go to Indiana, Prince Hall. They're very, very, very similar. Of course, there's the Scottish Rite Lodges in Louisiana. You got the, I think, emulation somewhere out on the East Coast, Washington somewhere. I think there's a French Rite up in Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania has its own thing going on. But for the most part, it's Preston Webb. Go see how the different states do, because every state's got its own little spin on it. But also go to Pennsylvania. Go to those Red Lodges, Scottish Rite Lodge, see how they do it. Because there's, even though the basics are the same, the ideas are the same, the modes of communication are far different. And if you can go visit a country where there's 3, 4, whatever different rites being practiced, go hit one of those lodges each. Like, for example, here, you know, we have emulation rite, German AFM, and Scottish Rite Lodges. You know, in any given month, I can go see all 3 different versions of, yeah, exactly, Brother Chandler, the many flavors of Masonry. We'll be getting to that for sure. But when you see these different versions of doing it, not only the subtle forms between the American states, but the more drastic differences between like the emulation and German AFAM, or if you can even go to a Masonic Rectified Rite Lodge, I think France has a couple of those. You'll see very different, it's all basically the same, but very different expressions and ways of wrapping the stuff up and delivering it to the candidate. But what those different things do, they show us, okay, Masonry is a diamond, okay? And we're all given different we're given the same truth, but we're trying to pick at it from different ways, and it's very culturally influenced. And when you step outside of your own culture and see how these other guys are doing it, you get a completely different perspective, and it's like, holy cow, I missed this. I didn't even realize. I was sitting in a second degree. I think we did 1 second degree this whole year or something, or was it last year? I forget. I was sitting in a second degree, and the Bulgarian finally sunk in. I was getting what's going on. I'm like, wow, I didn't even, it was one of the lectures. I'm like, wow, I never even thought of connecting that to the second degree, because when I went through, it was a completely different rite, you know? So it gives you different perspectives. And in the more radical cases, sometimes more, sometimes less. That's why you got to travel. And if you can get copies of those rituals, by all means, you know, and read them, compare, because that's where the real learning is within the rituals. All the commentaries are necessary to read. You got to read Mackey if you can stay awake. I mean, I admittedly, I'll fall asleep reading Mackey, Waite, or Pike. I'll admit it, you know. But those are necessary commentaries, especially the ones written by guys who have written the rituals for a rite, like Pike. If you're a Scottish Rite Mason, especially if you've gone through the 3 Scottish Rite degrees, you have to muscle through that Pike, because he's commenting on his own degrees, essentially. You know, it's a Southern jurisdiction, of course. But barring guys like that, the commentaries are good, but read the rituals themselves, learn those, assimilate them. Also, read the guys who came before us. Like I said, Agrippa, John Dee, the alchemists. We're not alchemists, but we're cousins of the alchemists. We're doing the same thing, but with different symbolism. For the guys who are members of the Masonic Rectified Rite Lodges, read Pasquale. If you read Pasquale, all those degrees make a whole lot more sense, you know? And that's the thing. And if you're German, AFM or Schroeder, read the French guys, because ours gets a lot of influence from them. You know, read Louis Claude de Saint-Martin, I think that's pronounced right. And you see, and you start seeing things filled in. So you have to, you know, it's working from inwards to outwards. Read your own ritual, see your own ritual. Go see the neighbors, go see the other rites. And by the way, when I say rite in the sense of a lodge, every Masonic system has, the Americans will call it ritual, like we say the Preston Webb ritual, emulation ritual, whatever. But once you start going into other languages and you confuse the languages like I do, it happens, you start hearing the term rite. When you say it in America, you think Scottish Rite versus York Rite, or should I just do both, you know? Versus, well, the Blue Lodge and the Red Lodge, you know, the Masonic Craft Lodge, the ritual system, that's a rite, you know? So ritual, big R, rite are essentially the same thing. So go see the other rites. Go read the commentaries, not only of the guy who wrote the rites, if you can get it, but also of the guys who came before them, the guys who influenced them, and read the commentaries of the contemporaneous guys and modern commentaries, because they're worth a lot. Because 2 heads are better than 1. Yeah, I can sit down and I can read anything I want. I'll still miss something. But A.E. Waite, as much as I say I sleep when I read it, which is true, I'm not gonna lie, you know, he is brilliant. He understands far more, understood, because he's passed on by now, 100 years ago. He understood far more than I will ever understand. You know, so it's worth that time and effort just to keep plugging away and reading, and something eventually will stick, and that will add to your understanding of what you're doing, and it'll give you further meat for contemplation when you are going through this, because part of the active participation within degree work is not just for the officers. It's for the side, you know, what we call in America, the sideliners, the guys that aren't actually, you know, they're sitting along the side of the lodge, you know, just essentially watching. But while you're sitting there, you're listening to this guy going through it, you're watching him go through it, and you have a chance to actually contemplate on the degrees you went to. And it's one of the many reasons I'm very grateful that I'm, you know, my lodge is a German AFM lodge, you know, by way of ritual, because it's given me, well, while the new guys are going through the degrees, it's given me a chance to contemplate not only on the degrees I received them as I received them, but as this kid's receiving it. And that active participation, contemplation builds up further in return. Now, with all this having been said on esoterism, philosophy, and working within the sacred space, how do we pass all this on physically? Because we're a ritually based organization, you know, and that brings us to the point of tradition and continuity. You know, it's not like the old song from Fiddler on the Roof, tradition, you know. There is that aspect, but there's also the aspect of continuity. How do we pass on that tradition? And I see it's a both and. These rituals were written, every organization has a birth, an adulthood, and an old age, and then it drops dead at some point. Okay. It's a maturation, it's an evolutionary process. However, at the core, it's like a human being. You're born, you're in your 20s, thinking you know everything, and then at some point you're in your 70s and realize you know everything. You know, but that same core person is the same person. That's, you know, the evolution of growth. Same thing with our organization. All these rituals were written or adapted or compiled or whatever, and at some point they froze. You know, when they were being written, that's their infancy, and then when they froze, it's their adulthood. They have an integrated set of symbols to pass on these truths that will later be contemplated for the rest of your life. So these symbols they become the outer skin of these realities, you know, on an experiential level, me telling you, okay? So they have to be maintained as is. We're not maintaining a tradition just for the sake of it. We're maintaining it so we can do this with some sanity and logic. Because if the compasses show us our boundaries, okay, well, you know, it's 21st century. I don't know what'll show us the boundaries. The mouse pad shows us boundaries too. So instead of doing compasses, we'll do a mouse pad. Well, those the boundaries that are symbolized by the compasses, that's one translation, because you're taking intangible reality and translating it into a tangible symbol. One translation. And then taking that second translation, finding something roughly similar, which is all you're doing and translating. It's not a science, it's not accurate. There's a lot of wiggly stuff in translating, trust me. You find the closest possible modern thing. Okay, let's say it's this mouse pad. Well, when you translate, you always lose something, whether it's a nuance or one of the many secondary meanings, you always lose something. That's why in a lot of places, changing things is heavily frowned upon, because you're going to lose it in translation. Like we were talking earlier, saying a word in one language, or I'm sorry, even within dialects, saying a word in one dialect is completely different meaning in a same language, but different dialect, even if it's only on the other side of the country. You know, same thing, even more radically here. You have your boundaries idea, then you have your compasses symbol, and then you have your mouse pad symbol. The symbols aren't even related. So you're hammering square pegs into round holes. Yeah, it'll work, but you're still losing something. So the tradition that is a couple of hundred years old, it retains more integrity of the old symbols that we've been handing on for 200 years, since they are the original, or very close to the original. I can't say they're the original, but they're closer to it. They maintain in a more integral way the teachings of that abstract reality than a secondary modern symbol, if that makes sense. Everybody follow here. However, that doesn't mean we can't use modern means to explain that old symbol. That's where commentaries come in. That's where things like this come in, these kind of lectures, podcasts. Nothing wrong with a podcast. They're just not the be all and end all. Nothing wrong with an informal lecture. It's not the be all and end all. You know, so to maintain continuity, there's a lot of wiggle room. Books, podcasts, lectures. And let's not underestimate the old past masters. Hey, son, come here. Yeah, you guys are dealing with this thing, but, you know, this old symbol, we can also look at it this way, you know, but this old symbol's enshrined in ritual because this is the closest thing we have to that abstract reality. Learn both, but this is another way to look at it, because symbols are layered. You know, they have the primary meaning, absolutely. They even have maybe a secondary meaning, you know, primary, exoteric. or should I say secondary exoteric, primary esoteric, because it works backwards in a lot of ways. But then there's all kinds of tertiary meanings that are also valuable. But we convey them through symbols. And in order to maintain continuity, we have to maintain the old symbol. But on the flip side, to pass on that continuity, using modern means is always a good thing. And speaking of passing on, that brings us ritual and degree conferral. Again, rituals are how we do things here. We pass on the Masonic character because you're a different person when you walk out of that, when you walk out than when you walk in. And of course, there's the objective reality that goes on in this being made a Mason and all things that are included in that. However, there's a lot also to be said for quality of passing it on, because you can run a guy through a degree. He'll still be a Mason, no question. He's our brother. That's it. We're done. He's it. You know, but if we put the time and the effort, slow down, everybody's really there, present, the degree will have more, for lack of a better word, it'll have more oomph to it. That candidate will have a better subjective experience of that degree. I mean, running through it, he'll have the objective experience, no question. Everybody putting their all into it, he'll have a good subjective experience, which will amplify the objective experience tenfold. And on top of it, that also go to build up our egregore, which is the spirit of our organization. So when we're going into our degrees, you know, whether it's done by memory work or it's done by reading, because there are places where it's perfectly acceptable to sit down, you have your degree book right in front of you, you read out of the degree, you go through, you know, book in one hand. I've seen it done in some places, and it's as effective and as impressive as the memory work. Okay, but it's however you do it, strive for excellence. Don't try to be perfect, because we're always going to mess up something. Like I said, there's always one line I mess up every single time. But if you strive to be a little better every degree you do, it becomes a learning process, and the learning curve flattens out. And that memory work that you're pounding away on your head eventually pays off. And even in the places where they do read it out of the book, at some point you start memorizing this stuff, and then you find yourself not holding the book in a lot of cases. And it just becomes part of who you are, and then you're naturally passing this on just by nature. And that adds to the experience of the candidate. And speaking of which, running guys through things, everything has a time and a place. And we'll go into this in the education section. Let the guy take his time to learn from one degree to the next. You know, Blue Lightnings, day festivals, they have their thing going on. Of course, I'm talking the average degree conferral. Give the guy time to learn his stuff. And then once he's a Master Mason, everybody knows the old joke about the York Rite, Scottish Rite, and Shrine petitions in the Master's hand. And, as we have the new Mason, give the new guy time to breathe. When I was Master of the Lodge, I used to tell, my attitude was, and I said it like this, I can't tell you what to do, but my real strong suggestion is, now that you're a brand new Master Mason, wait at least 1 year before joining any appendant bodies. Come here as much as you can. I mean, wife, kids, job, of course, whatever, but at least 1 year before even looking at the other stuff. In a lot of places, even the York Rite, even the Royal Arch is an invitation thing, and it's a good, and it's not a bad idea. But for where it's not, I talk to the guys who are in a million pendant bodies, like me, I'm in way too much. Give the new guy a breathing room, because let's say, okay, so especially in America, where there's a very close relationship between the Royal Arch degree or degree system and the Blue Lodge. How is he going to understand what's going on in a Mark degree or a Royal Arch degree if he doesn't even remember his first, second, or third degree? that's why from an appendant body point of view, slowing down on getting the new Master Mason and is good also for the appendant body, because he'll have time to learn the basics. So when we're teaching him the further stuff, he'll actually understand what we're talking about. Because yes, in many places the highest degree is Master Mason, except for Swedish, right? They have an integrated 10-degree system, but we'll get into that later. But these appendant bodies, in many cases, not all, of course, they're the higher, quote unquote, higher degrees of what used to be integrated degree systems. Again, the Royal Arch, it used to be attached onto the Craft Lodge, and I think in some places it might still actually be. And if I remember right, most worshipful, Glenn, you can correct me on this. I think even the Mark is underneath the Grand Lodge over in England. But
Mark is a separate Grand Lodge in England, but yes, in Scotland, Mark will be conferred in the lodge.
Okay, yeah, okay, so it was Scotland then. Okay, so and then on top of that, you like Swedish, right? You have degree 1 through 10. They have 3 subordinate little bodies, but it's an integrated system. A wonderful example of a split system over here on the continent is the Masonic Rectified Right. You have Rectified Right lodges, then you have the other degrees that are in the Rectified Right appendant body, starting with, I think, Scottish Master up to Grand Professed, chair degrees, of course, but they at one point were one system. But especially over in America, because I think they're over there now too, they only exist as an appendant body, and there are no Rectified Right craft degrees over there. You go through the Blue Lodge or the Red Lodge or Pennsylvania Lodge, and then you take it on top. So these, in many cases, were separated off. So you have to understand those first 3 degrees, or you're going to be really lost by the time that you get to this other stuff. It's just going to be pointless going one ear and right out the other. So from the new Master Mason point of view, it helps you to know what's going on when you learn. From us, on the appendant body side, it helps us because he'll know what's going on. And when he's an officer, he won't be completely clueless. So there's times and places for everything. And now I've been speaking of the mythical new guy the whole time. Who is the new guy? Sorry, I'm originally from the south side of Chicago. So everybody is a guy to me. Please forgive me. The new guy, he's our future. He's the prospect or candidate or whatever you want to call him. He's going to be the guy who's going to be the master of the lodge when we're dead and pushing up daisies. So we better make sure, number 1, he's worthwhile, and number 2, that he's going to fulfill his obligation to the craft. But equally important, we better fulfill our obligation to him so that he's not, left hung out to dry when we're gone. So this is where the membership and retention really, where the bullet really hits the bone. The new guy. When we see a guy, we think he's an okay fellow. Now in different countries, it's different ways. Even in America, it depends by state. Illinois used to be a to be one, ask one only state. Brother Terrence, is Prince Hall still to be one, ask one only?
Yes, sir.
Okay. State Grand Lodge, I was still over there. It was a couple of years before I left. It went from only to be one, ask one. Now we can invite guys. In other places, in other parts of the world, it's invitation only. And in some places, it's a practical thing, because if the lodges are hidden, how are they going to know where to ask, But then there's the other thing, well, we have to invite him or whatever the local country is saying, So it varies greatly from one extreme to only ask to only the new guy asks to only we invite, and then everything in between. So there's different ways to do it, but it all boils down to the same thing. What's this guy? Do we like him or not? If he's asking, okay, the good side about him asking us, we have a better idea that he's not joining because his buddies are trying to strong him into the craft. Come on, man, it's a bunch of the guys, us all, we're all buddies. Come on, join. Come on, why not? Come on. If he has to ask, that's most likely not going on. Whether it does or not, that's another story, but most likely it's not. On the flip side, if we have to invite, we know walking into it who we're getting. We have a better, not necessarily, but we have a much better idea who we're getting, because somebody liked him enough to say, hey, I want to bring him into my inner circle of super special friends. But then the other question is he joining just because the guys joined? Because, there's like, once you're in, there's a whole pen and body thing, hey, everybody's a Shriner, I may as well join and then never show up. There's always that worry that if, we ask him, is he joining because we're asking him? Or is he joining because, we asked him and he's like, yeah, I've always wanted to be a Mason. Yeah. There's always that doubt. But on the flip side, if the guy has to ask us, we don't, sometimes we do know, because everybody knows how to lay the head. Well, there's a certain mentality of a certain kind of person that make a really good Mason. And my goodness, you look like that certain kind of person with that certain kind of mentality, but it's impossible to ask you to join, the whole old workaround. But barring that kind of thing, there's always the question, okay, he's asking us to join, but is he any good? We don't know 100%. Not that we know when we're inviting, but that's where that other one lives. So there's investigating committees or presenting the guy at the lodge. Some places will make you give, a little short bio. Well, this is the guy, this is how I know him. I've known him for at least 2 years, because some places have a time limit of how long minimum you got to know the guy. So that, I've known him for 2 years. He's a swell guy, because, and this is what he does for a living. This is what he is. Conversely, you have the investigating committee. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's where a couple of 1, 2, 3, whatever it is in jurisdiction, Masons go to the guy's house, talk to him, hopefully talk to the wife, make sure she's okay. We all have bosses, right? Make sure the boss is okay with it, because we don't want to take a guy out of his family without their blessing, of course. But we go talk to him, ask him basic questions. Does he meet our at least our minimum standards? Does he believe in God? Of course, this is defined differently in every jurisdiction. Is he a free man? Is he not a prisoner, in jail or whatever, and all these different things. But there's nuances that investigating committee should be looking for. And one thing I was taught, at least, see how he talks to the wife and kids. Of course, if he's married, Another thing, just by way of suggestion, what can be done where secrecy, where lodge location and membership status secrecy isn't a thing, invite them over to lodge for, hey, you want to be a Mason, let's get to know each other. Come to their next 3 stated meetings, come for the dinner beforehand. Or a bunch of the guys, hey, you're a new guy, you want to join? Let's get to know each other. Let's go over to that bar and have a beer, whatever it is. I don't know. Get to know the guy, because the more you know a guy, the better you can vote on him. Because you don't want to just walk in the place and drop a whatever color chip in the bag or whatever color ball in the bag and hope you made the right vote. Because for guys who don't know what I'm talking about, some of the lodges will use like a bag with essentially black and white poker chips. Some place they'll use a box with a white ball and a black cube. Okay, for voting, the white accepts, the black rejects, essentially. And when you do that, you want to make sure you're voting as intelligently as possible, because here's the thing. Despite what I've been, how to say it nicely, you'll hear every once in a while guys saying, well, the vote's only a ritualistic holdover from years past. It's not. It's actually quite the opposite. The vote is your last line of defense of making sure you let in a good guy, because once he's in and he's able to travel, he's one of ours, and we have a responsibility to him, and he has it to us. And we remember the American model, which I really do think is, this is a universal idea, but put in an American term, making good men better. We want to make sure he's a good guy before we make him better. We don't want an axe murderer to join or something. You know, we want a good guy to make him better, to move on with life. You know, so that vote is extremely important, because what are we voting for ultimately? We're voting for Masonry. We're voting, you know, Masonry at large. We're voting for our Grand Lodge, but most importantly, we're voting for our particular lodge. Why? Because we're the ones that are going to be seeing each other every 1 to 4 times a month and having to deal with each other. So it really does become like a family, especially when you have a 25-guy lodge, and, you know, it really is like a family. You know, you want to make sure that everybody's on board with this new guy, because we are the family. It's like, okay, your daughter goes and gets married, right? She brings home the new guy. Yeah, Dad, this is my boyfriend. Oh, really? Nice to meet you. You know, you're checking him out, because that guy is not only going to be your daughter's husband, better be taking care of her, better be taking care of the kids. Why? Because they're family. She's a member of our family. The new guy wants in on our family, which is fine, which is perfectly fine. We need new members of our family, but we want to make sure he's not a destructive, abusive guy, okay? Because once he's in, it's real hard to get rid of him. I mean, that's a real nasty way to put it, but that's the reality. And then if you take this to a logical extent, of course, visitation is, I mean, real broad brush strokes here. Visitation is only a right within your own jurisdiction, and even technically, okay, gotta go. Okay, then we're gonna wrap this up real quick. Then
no worries, brother. Just you've covered a lot, so I don't want to go on and on and on and on. So I don't want to lose all our audience here, but please, if you get to the summary, please.
Get to the summary. Okay.
If you like.
The end. No. Okay. No. So the basic point is starting with their tenets, ending with how we live our Masonic virtues on a practical level. We're a family based in brotherly love, living it through relief with the foundation of the truth. Okay. So just to wrap up the last point, and then to completely wrap up, please. Okay. When we let the new guy in, we do have a responsibility to him. Yes, he has a responsibility to learn his lessons and to attend as much as is possible. However, we have that equal responsibility to help him up and through. Okay, it's a dialogue. He's our family. We have to help him. Brother is not just a term. Brother is what we are. Again, why are we brothers? We're family. What do families do? They love each other. How do they love each other? They relieve each other in many different ways. And how do we know how to do it? Is through the truth. There, wrapped up quickly.
Thank you.
I'm very sorry. It's yes.
No, it just, you had a lot you covered, but it seemed like some of it is stuff I think we already kind of know, like investigating a member and all like that. I like the stuff you brought up early on. I also want to make sure people have a chance to answer questions, because there were some interesting things.
No, please go ahead. No, like I said, yeah, I apologize for getting long-winded.
No, not at all. Brother Terrence had your hand up.
Yo, Brother Terrence.
Oh, actually, that was just an emoji. I was clapping.
Oh, okay.
I do have a question, though.
Well, you have the floor, so go ahead.
Yeah, Brother Meek, actually, this is a question kind of outside of what you were discussing, but just kind of picking your brain. I noticed that you visited a lot of different jurisdictions and rights. Have you ever visited a traditional, I believe the term is traditional ordinance or traditional observance lodge?
Oh, TO Lodge? No, I know some guys involved in it. How they explained, I haven't been there, but how they explained it to me is basically, it's like the local lodge, except they set standards on top of it, essentially. That's my understanding.
Brother Terrence, you are a week late.
I know, right?
Last week we did cover it. I had a panel discussion with about 7 brothers who are members of, they had different names. Some had slightly different names. They were all observant lodges, and it was fascinating. That is on YouTube. So if you go to the group, I have a link to it on YouTube, and that was awesome. I learned a lot about TO lodges, and one of the things is they don't actually call, well, TO is a good term. They all have slightly different names, but to kind of summarize from what I heard from them, it's, I joined Masonry expecting a certain thing. And for the most part, I've been disappointed that it's not exactly what I thought I was expecting. And the Observant Lodges, their goal is to bring back something that maybe we kind of lost in this more modern version of Masonry. It's not really a wow factor, because several of the brothers who have been in these Observant Lodges say, this is what I've been Mason in Masonry all along. Now, there is no one answer. I'm not putting forth, no one is saying this is the only way Masonry can be done, but those who have experienced it, they take it a lot more seriously and they feel like they're getting more out of it. But I don't want to rehash everything that was done last time. I have links to, there's like 8 steps to having an Observant Lodge, and Brother Neely said, just bring one of those steps into your lodge and you will see a difference. So I definitely recommend everybody who's interested in TO, who missed it last week, go and watch the video from last week. And there are links on our page, on the group page, about stuff you can read. Brother Andrew Hammer wrote a really nice book on observing the craft that goes into great detail. But it was really great. And that's why I'm glad you brought it up, because that's kind of where I wanted to go with this whole group, where we're going here. I kind of have an idea. I know I want to go somewhere and I'm not sure how to get there. And that's where I'm at right now. So if you stick with me on this journey, we're going to end up there and you say, wow, we got where we wanted to. The talk about Observant Lodges was really in the direction I want to go. And I think that every speaker I brought in here, every topic is moving us in that right direction. I feel that every way we're moving closer to where I want to go. I want to make Masonry better. This isn't just about research. It's about, for all of us, we're looking for something to build on what we have. And I think the whole problem with the pandemic is we're separated. We can't meet in our lodges. But what we have been able to do, what's happened more often because of it, is we're meeting more online. And I'm connecting with brothers I've got from, get my hands in the right place, brothers from all over the world. I've got right here in my little chat. I got brothers from Europe, brothers from Canada. Not so many Canadians this week. Normally we have a lot of Canadians too, but we're connected and we're all Masons. I think everybody here is a Mason. We're all connecting with each other. And I think that's where we want to go. This has given us an opportunity to connect in a way we normally might do. So it is a positive thing. So I'm glad you asked. But yeah, everything, I don't know where we're getting to, but I feel like we're going in the right direction. And this is giving something more meaningful for everybody who's attending. We're getting more out of it, I hope. I had a question kind of in line with what John was saying. This is a good segue, though. He talks about establishing a sacred space. You start a blue lodge, you open up your blue lodge in whichever degree, and you establish a sacred space. And again, to bring in a line about the observance is they use incense, they use music, they use special lighting, candles, whatever. But one of the things that any lodge can do is take your degree work more seriously. I think most of us have been around, have gone to a lodge meeting where they didn't take the degree work seriously. They opened up the lodge, guys were kind of joking. They didn't care if they got their part right. You had people chatting on the sidelines, and it wasn't serious. And it's the smallest step to take towards making Masonry a better product and a better end result for your candidate is take this seriously. Go to the effort of actually wearing a coat and tie. You're a member of the lodge. You know, you're taking part in the degree. Make the effort and actually put on a coat and tie. Don't think you can just show up in a polo shirt and slacks and, well, they'll let me attend, they don't care. Make the effort. We want to impress our candidate. And if we all took one little step to make it more serious and more significant, the candidate is going to take it in a more serious light. And that's probably the easiest step to move in the right direction. And you don't have to call it observant or heritage or whatever. You just have to say, hey guys, we owe it to our candidates to give them a better experience. And we're kind of just phoning it in. So I'd like to ask the question, because I have felt that. I have been in a lodge where it is a sacred space. I have been there where everything is clicking and everybody's doing what they need to do. And we can have fun and we can joke around, and we joke in my lodge, we enjoy ourselves. But when you're doing degree work, when you're doing the serious stuff, I've seen it when it all clicks and you truly feel like you are in a different place. You're not out in the real world. You're in lodge. You have opened your lodge on that degree and you seriously feel it. You know, things are different. It's the same group of men, but when you're done, you walk downstairs, it's different. You are in something that was actually working and you began to experience the end result of what we're supposed to be experiencing all the time. So here's the question for everybody. Can we establish a sacred space in an online presence like this one? We're not going to do any ritual. We're not tiling. We're not doing what we do in a lodge, but can we get to a sacred space? Can we take a meeting like this? It's casual, that's optional, it's not required. We're all from different jurisdictions all over the place, but can we form a sacred space here and start to actually learn something together? So when we walk away, you're saying, yeah, that wasn't just an ordinary Zoom meeting. I go to Zoom meetings for work every day. I hate them. I'm dragged into my daily meetings. I can't stand it. I can't wait for them to be over. Can we make something going on here there we go, in this environment? Can we make a sacred space here online? Is that possible? Should we be trying for that? Is that something we want to do? That's a question. I want someone to answer me. Can we do that here? Is that worth pursuing?
Okay, I'll say something to that. I know you can make a fraternal space, something sacred. That's a new one to me. I don't know. One of the problems that we see that's always in the back of every person's mind when you're in a Zoom meeting is it doesn't feel as personal. It's almost like 2-dimension to 3-dimension. But is it possible? I'm not the expert. I will say that until we can become comfortable enough to where it feels personal, we probably won't get spiritual or sacred.
Okay. Well, I'll live with fraternal. I'm just saying, can we bring this a step up? Maybe we get hung up on words. That's the whole observant thing. People get hung up on the term and say, well, it's not traditional. You shouldn't call it that. They lose the point. But you won't. Okay. Yeah, thank you. I'll take another water. Thank you. My waiter just dropped by the table here. People get hung up on terms. And can we make this a fraternal space? I'm going to steal your term there, Shelby. Can we make this a fraternal space? Can we make this particular Zoom meeting, not this one, but this one every Saturday, make it a little bit more? I make a point to try to introduce people, get everybody to at least say hi. And I'm getting to know some of you online. And it's funny because I've been on Facebook a lot. Anybody who knows me on Facebook knows I'm on a lot. And I see a lot of you online and I comment and we chat. And Facebook is very much a 2-dimensional thing. I don't even see
something to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. One of the things that might make it even more fraternal is allocating enough time or doing a separate Zoom meeting where you have more of a round table than a lecture. And the lectures are great, but round tables allow the participants to all equally participate. And that's when you get more of the exchange, the personal exchange. That's where you get more of the feeling of brotherhood, because it's not like speaker to audience or teacher to students. It becomes more along the lines where it's equal footing. It's like the round table, like, as the word entails.
That's why I put it out in the poll. It's what people would be interested in. And honestly, I need feedback from y'all. I mean, I can have good ideas. Shelby can have a good idea. Brian can have a good idea and share it and all, but I need to hear from the people in the group. I want everyone to feel like they can speak up in this meeting and say, hey, I like this. I like to do this. And that's why on our group page, I make an effort to involve everybody. I got 1,500 people have joined my group. And I think close to 1,000 of you joined just in the past 12 months. So it's really awesome that people are interested because the weekly papers, whatever it is, it's drawing you in here. But I really want more discussion. I want more input from everybody. So it's on you all. I mean, I can come up with stuff all the time, but really, this isn't just me. I want this to be more of a group effort. And that takes everybody to speak up. So please, if anyone wants to speak up, this is the time.
Worshipful Chris.
Yes. Please.
With your permission, I'll defer, of course, to Brother Meek's analysis of what I want to say here. When I asked him, do you know John Michael Greer?
Yes. Yes.
Was recommended that I read his book, Inside a Magical Lodge. Brother Greer is a esotericist of many what we would call pagan traditions. And to kind of address Worshipful Douglas's question, is it feasible to create the kind of circle of magic, if you will, in the online space? And that's really I think, Chris, the question you're asking. Can we get that egregore of a community simply from the visual images and the auditory experience in our own separate physical spaces? My experience is you could do that if the 5 or 6 of you have done that before in the meat space, if you will. Okay. If you're familiar with each other, that egregore can be developed. I think in a more informal or certainly a casual space like this, that's got to be very difficult to do unless you set up a pretty clear line of what Greer would call spiritual authority. Somebody's got to be the one. Brother Meek will recognize, acting as the Hierophant, standing at the apex of that spiritual experience. That's my take on it, and I wish it were different. I would love to have virtual experiences like that, but they don't seem to work.
Right. Okay. I don't want to set our standard too high where we're disappointed. I don't want to promise, hey, we're going to do this and you're going to feel just like you're in lodge, because you can't. I mean, without a ritual, I really don't see how you can. And you have to be physically present. I agree. I don't think an observant lodge is the only place you can have that magic, that Zen moment of being in lodge, but it helps put you in the right state of mind where you're more likely to have it. Like I said, I've been a Mason over 30 years. I've been to many, many, many lodges, and I've been to some where it felt like a dry, boring business meeting. And it was like, why am I here? I couldn't wait for it to be over. We're wasting all this time talking about minutes and blah, blah, blah. And that's everybody's common complaint. And I've been to some where it's just, things fire on all cylinders, and you can't always quantify it, but I'm trying to. It's like, what do we have to do to get there? But I think at a minimum, if we can get to a fraternal space, and yes, I'm coining Shelby's phrase, can we get this meeting to a fraternal space where it's more meaningful than just another Zoom meeting when you heard a speaker? And I guess that's my first goal. If we'll move towards that, that's a shorter step. Maybe we can get there. But I guess that's where I want to be. And honestly, I see some of you, I just see you every week. Familiarity is a step in that direction. There's always going to be people coming on here. There's 30 of you. Some of you, like Brother Robson, Brother Cook, I know you all from Facebook. And like I was saying, that's a two-dimensional thing where I see your name. I might see your icon. If I bother to click on it, I might see your face. But most of the time, I don't even bother. I just read the name, and I just kind of say, well, it's kind of that shape and the name. And that's all I see you as, because I don't bother to click on the profile. But I get into these discussions with people, and it is very two-dimensional. It's just words. It's often misconstrued. Sarcasm and humor doesn't come across. And social media is a very poor way to have a really meaningful discussion, especially about something controversial. So it's hard. Facebook is two-dimensional. But like I was trying to get to, I see names here of people that I know from my Facebook interactions, and then I see you for real. I see John's face. He doesn't look much like his profile pic. But now I'm getting to know.
I never.
I know. And well, your hair was shorter, but you get to know. It's kind of like I'm getting to know some people. Like I'll say, brother Brian Smith, Brother Hughes, did he drop off? Brother Neil, who's not here today. There's several guys here, Brother George's, that I'm getting used to seeing here week after week. So just the familiarity every week of seeing the same people, you know, that's going in a long way towards what I'm looking for, towards more
Brother
of
Chris.
Go ahead.
I just want to say this.
Yeah.
I think one of the reasons why a lot of people find great spirituality in strict observance, traditional observance, what you call it, is because they are like-minded in their pursuits. The problem with a standard Blue Lodge is that you have people. Masonry is a personal journey. Everybody sees Masonry in different ways. They pursue it in different ways, and so they come together in a Blue Lodge. And they all have their own personal direction on where they think Masonry should go. In a strict observance lodge, they all like-minded in their pursuit of strict observance, and so it becomes more spiritual for them. It's kind of like when you're in the shrine and you're in a parade, and you're there with your brothers, and it's an amazing experience just to be with them. They're all in a shared direction. And that's how, when they feel that spiritualism. And it's the same as in strict observance. They get that spirituality, that spiritual feeling of it, the sacredness of it, because they're all in the same pursuit. You don't normally get that in a standard Blue Lodge because everybody's pursuits are different. So what happens is, in the virtual realm, one of the problems we are facing is that people like you and I and everybody here, this technology is a learned technology. It's not second nature to us. But I guarantee you that in future generations, where this is the standard medium in everybody's lives, they could probably get that. Maybe we can get that. Who knows? As long as our mindset changes about its the place of technology. But once you have that same pursuit, we might be able to get a same pursuit in understanding, trying to learn. The idea of learning itself, if that becomes the focus, maybe we can get that kind of spiritual, obtain that spiritual goal that you speak of. But I think because this is a learned technology that we had and not second nature, it's kind of like when you're kids, when you watch your kids and they just naturally jump onto a phone and start going at it and they don't even think about it. It's second nature to them. It's like what Brother Meeks was talking about, learning the ritual, understanding the ritual so that it becomes second nature so that you can focus on what needs to be focused on. In time, that's possible with generations. Maybe we can learn it to where it becomes second nature, but maybe that's what the block is.
Okay, I hear you. Well, anyone think I'm totally off base? Anyone think I'd be wasting my time? I don't know.
I mean, think anything's possible.
Okay. Okay. So we're going to pursue that. I'm just, and this is the thing. I don't know why. I just feel like I need to kind of share what I'm thinking when things are going on, because I don't know where this is going. I started this because I see there's an interest in Zoom meetings. I see a lot of them online, and quite honestly, I can't make most of them, or I see them and then I forget, and I really wanted to go to one and then I totally forget about it. And then the night of, it's like, oh crap, I was going to join that. So I wanted to give a platform for the Research Lodge because we couldn't meet in person. And it seems to me as if I'm the one driving it, if I'm the one who has to schedule every week, then I've obligated myself and I'm going to show up. So I don't want to speak ill of any of the other Zoom meetings out there. I'm sure all of them are great and they all work, but I can't consistently attend any of them because if I'm not responsible for running it, I'll forget it. And by having one that I'm in charge of, I know I'm going to be here every week. So I'm more committed to the one that I'm running, if that makes sense. So I'm always thinking, where are we going with it? I want to explore the space. I want to do more. I want to see where we can go with it and make it something meaningful. And I'm just going to ramble on to y'all and say, hey, this is kind of neat. Are we going here? Are we going there? And that's why I'm constantly trying to make it better and improve it and take it in a direction. And I'm not even sure what that direction is yet. So that's why I'm going to keep sharing that with y'all. So when someone goes back in 2 years and watches the beginnings of this and how did this thing take over, the internet, then, you're able to go back and watch these and explain how it happened, I guess. I don't know. or it'll never get bigger than 30 people and it'll die out in a year. Who knows? Any other brother like to comment?
If I may,
Yes, please, John.
this is the infamous book. We got through about half of it. It's 56 pages. For those of you who've read it, it's got a fair amount of humor, so it's not dry reading, but it's got a lot of information. So what we didn't get to, essentially, everybody has a different role, different places to do different ways, and everything else. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, I'd appreciate if you buy it. If not, thank you for coming at least. I appreciate your time and patience.
Yes.
And thank you, Brother Andrews. Thank you very much.
Oh, good. Any other brother like to say anything? Anything to offer? Any questions for Brother Meek or anything else we've discussed?
Overall comment, Brother
Please.
Troy Andrews, Cornerstone Lodge out of Prince Hall, Chicago, Illinois.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to keep the interest on a regular basis, especially if you're having meetings once a week, because each time a person comes, they're expecting to learn something new. But, really good education, you kind of recycle things over and over again. Sometimes people will get bored. But in the end, I think, having a basic educational structure and then allowing, like the brother said earlier, a round table for discussions, I think that'll help keep the interest because you continuously get feedback and know where to adjust. But in the end, I enjoyed it and I picked up the book, and as soon as I get it out, I'll probably read it in 1 or 2 days. But so far, so good. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. I do want to ask, as I mentioned, the poll, if you all can visit the group page and answer the poll, or just if you can't find it, just make a comment. I'd like to see more of this. Or right now, anybody who's here, is there anything, since this is yours too, as much as it's mine, is there anything you'd like to see us do at this Zoom meeting? Any different kind of format you want me to try? I'll mention the poll. I said, do you want me to have a topic that I mentioned like on the group page? I'll say, we're going to talk about, I don't know, lodge dues. How high should they be? And then on Saturday, we'll talk about it. Or do you want me to surprise you with the topic and just hit you all with a question? Do you like having a panel discussion where there's 5 or 6 brothers and I just ask them questions in a row? Do you like having a speaker like we had with Brother Meek? Do you like someone reading one of our previous research papers? One idea I had was we put out the research paper every week I try to do it by Monday. And if we want to have like more of a book club, I could say, everyone, I expect you to read the paper that I put out on Monday, and we talk about it on Saturday. Now, at a minimum, I could just simply ask at the beginning of the session, anybody have any comments and we want to discuss that particular paper, and still have a regular speaker. I mean, there's a lot of different ways. So anybody right now here, anybody like those ideas or wants to offer a different idea, a different format we can kind of explore?
I think you should just change it up and do all of it.
Okay.
I like the idea of being instructed. I like the idea of hearing what other people have to say. And I like the idea of a group session. I think that a book reading is perfect. I think that if you change it up, you keep the flavor, you keep the interest up as well.
Okay.
My take.
Oh, I mean, they were just ideas I had off my top of my head, and I want to kind of just, like you said, I want to mix it up. 1 week we'll do this, 1 week we'll do that, and we'll just see what the overall reaction is as we go forward.
Yeah, just make sure it's announced ahead of time so people know.
Yes. So, Brother Spence, or were you just waving? Oh, you do have your
Hey,
hand
Brother
up, yes.
Chris, thanks. Worshipful Brother John Meek, thank you for your great talk. It was very interesting, and
thank you.
It's great. I mean, I've only done it a little bit, but I'd like to do more because I speak a couple of languages. But that's so awesome that you've been in different places like Russia and Bulgaria and gone to lodge, I suppose. And it's, but thank you for giving us the book. And I know a few of us, well, there's another fellow already ordered, so I'll get around to it
Oh,
soon.
thank you.
But I appreciate it. And if you still have half your book, like, we could always do another time too, Brother Christopher.
If it's okay with Brother Douglas, I don't care. I'm perfectly up for. I'm very sorry. It went longer than expected. It's a tough topic to put in a nutshell.
Yes.
Obviously, but thank you very much, worshipful Brother Meek. And
No,
then
thank you
Brother
guys.
Chris,
Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry, Brother Chris, you're doing a fine job, and you know, we are getting in my opinion, I love coming to this talk on Saturday as much or more than any other. So you're doing fine, and sure, if you want, I think it's a good, cool idea to change it up a little bit. Perhaps again another panel in a few weeks or a month, and you know, have us watch one of the videos from previous events and then talk about it again. But yeah, really enjoy the pleasant and friendly nature here, and the way, you know, you give the speakers free reign, and it's a great event. I look forward to it every Saturday from up here in chilly Canada.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I will say this. As I've said before, Brother Terry, I'll get you in 1 sec. What I'm doing with the research papers is, since I'm scanning them in every week, I try to get to a point where I scan 3 or 4 in ahead. So if I have a busy week on Monday, I can just say, okay, next one in the queue. And it takes like 5 minutes to send it out. There are some weeks where I've fallen behind and I haven't scanned one. So, or I haven't read the ones from the other research lodges. I have them, but I want to read all of them and have a summary before I put it on the Spreading the Light. So, so I want to get a buffer so every week I can just put out one and it doesn't drag down. So what I wanted to do was line up enough speakers for like a month or so ahead of time, so it's not like Monday and I don't know what we're doing on Saturday. But now I've kind of got everything filled into mid-March. Now I've got to go back and say, okay, I want to try and insert some of these other ideas we have so we can intersperse them. But basically we have people booked into March. So I already have a speaker lined up. I'm trying to set up some panel discussions too. So I will make an effort like to leave gaps as I'm lining up speakers, so that way I can do what I want in a given week and change it up. So I will change it up. It's just that I don't want to tell somebody who's already committed that I'm moving them, because it was hard getting people lined up. So, but I will be changing it up. Brother Terry, please.
Oh, Brother Chris, thank you very much. Doing a great job with this platform, and it's a good thing considering the restrictions that have been put on us all by the various Grand Lodges. And I want to thank you for doing it. I also want to thank Brother Meek for advising me of this meeting, and I hope to join some more in the future. Going to take just a half a second. Brother Meek has written 3 books, as he has told us. To me, the best one, sorry, John, the best one is the one about my home lodge, Brahan Lodge, the best little lodge hall in Texas. It's a picture book. It's the inside of our lodge hall is rather unique, and that's what it's based on. So again, yeah, there you go, John. Anyhow, thank you very much, Brother Chris, for hosting this, and I hope to join y'all again sometime.
If I can throw something in here, guys.
Thank you, Brother Terry. Go ahead.
What Honorable Brother Terry was saying about Brahan's an extremely important lodge, artistically speaking, for us as Masons. Inside the lodge room itself, it's got murals for all the lectures. And one of the murals actually one of them has nothing to do with the lectures. It's a Masonic rebus. It's a Masonic version of an alchemical symbol. And if one of the brethren from Brahan want to give a talk on that lodge, I think Masonry in general would do well to know about this place, because it's a treasure. It really is. Honorable Brother Terry, do we know anybody?
John, can you put the title of that book in the chat, please?
Yeah, there's only one problem with this book is it's way overpriced and there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
No, I'm not kidding. Oh wait,
Okay.
no. Amazon's got it on sale right now. So you can, if you get it from Amazon, you'll get it cheap.
Okay.
Texas. I think they,
and I would like to say, I'm going to try and repeat things every week so
Oh, no,
people,
it's not.
it sinks in. I try to follow the chat as we go. I have noticed Brother Martinez was really bad about this, and Brother Meek, you're kind of the same way. If someone puts up a chat and you're speaking, you get distracted. I've noticed that. Brother Martinez was the word. It's like he's on a rant, and I really want to hear what he's saying, and then he stops and he reads the chat and he gets distracted.
very sorry.
Oh no,
But the-
I
I don't want to ignore the brothers.
I'm noticing there's, I mean, okay, this is a very new medium, and I'll say this again, you know, it's like I'm just learning Zoom. I broke down and bought a licensed version of Zoom for the Research Lodge, specifically for our meetings, and I'm using the heck out of it. But I'm familiar enough. I'm an IT person. I write websites for a living, so I'm very familiar with IT, and I try to keep up on new things. So I learn Zoom as well as I can so I can use it, and I'm not fumbling for the button to do things since we're live. And I think I understand it pretty well, but it's fun to observe other people and kind of, I notice like the chat will distract people as we're going. And I don't know a way around that unless to tell the speaker, just minimize the chat, just ignore it while you're speaking. I don't know. But I like the fact
I don't know how to minimize it.
Oh, okay. Well, we're just sort of, I mean, we're all just sort of freewheeling here, and we're kind of figuring out as we go. I have no problem. Obviously, in a lodge, you would not get up and interrupt the speaker in the middle of his presentation. You wouldn't. You would wait for him to ask for questions.
True.
And that's how we normally do it. And what I like about the Research Lodge is we always had an effort of the discussions were, we'd have a discussion at the end. There will always be questions. I've been in plenty of lodges where someone gave an amazing talk and no one asked a question. It's like, you got to come up with at least one thing to show them you're actually listening. I feel it's kind of rude to not at least ask one question on the topic, but it's kind of neat how we're online. It's not a meeting. I interrupt you if I try not to, but if I like, okay, I need you to explain a term because John, as you can see, he's very familiar with I can't even say it, esotericism. I'm not even saying it right. Esotericism. The word, I'm not even saying it right. Esotericism and several other things.
It depends on where you're from.
Martinism, whatever. And I'm like, I don't even know half the words you're using. And I'm trying to follow along, but it's okay. I think if it's necessary to interrupt to say, I'm sorry, I need you to explain this a little bit. And then you continue with your talk. So I kind of like that we're freewheeling here and you can react and we're all getting more out of it instead of just being a dry, you know, you're just giving a talk and no one says anything. So if you post any links in the chat, if you are talking to me in the chat and I missed it, especially if it's private message, I'm sorry. I've got to run the meeting and Brian does a good job of helping me let people in because I can't always notice the waiting room. So you need at least one host with you. So the two of you make sure you're monitoring at least the waiting room and let people in. So I try to follow the chat as well as listen to the speaker, and I don't always see if you post and I don't answer you. I'm sorry. I will post the chat online. It gets saved automatically, so I will post it. If you put in a URL for your website, it will get posted in the group, so don't think you haven't been heard, and you will get heard. But if I didn't specifically answer a question, I will apologize up front. So don't feel like I'm ignoring you. I have to pay attention to the meeting. I can't always watch the chat, but I'll probably get better at it as we go. So just so you know where we're coming from and no one feels like I messaged him and he didn't answer me. And sorry, I do my best to keep
one
up
thing
with
for you.
Yeah.
If you leave them in the waiting room, just tell them, I'm sorry, but we needed a Tyler.
Yep. And something I'll circle back. Yeah. Circle back's a popular phrase these days. I will circle back to what John and Brian and I were talking about right when we first started this meeting. This is meant to be for Masons, but I'm not being strict, okay? I'm not, because of the nature of the internet, and I've said this online many times, but I'll try and summarize it here. I have no way of knowing all of you are actually Masons. And I bet that half of you are regular Masons and you're good Masons and you've worked your whole life in Masonry and you're regular. But because my Grand Lodge doesn't recognize your Grand Lodge, there's no way we can sit in lodge together. That's just reality. Until all the lodges, Grand Lodges recognize each other, I can't sit in lodge with you, which means it's silly to have any kind of online meeting and say, we're going to be tiled and we're going to make sure only regular Masons can attend. Because honestly, half of y'all can't attend my lodge. So it's silly of me to say, I'm going to ask for dues cards. I need to make sure you're part of a regular lodge because this is a tiled meeting, because it's not. In no way it can be. This is online. It's going to be recorded. Anybody could come in. We're trying to be somewhat careful in who we let in, and I may ask who you are or ask you to introduce yourself, especially if you just have a first name. But honestly, expect there to be non-Masons in these meetings. I don't discourage it, but I don't encourage it. Ideally, you're all Master Masons and you're all attending here, but if you're a fellow craft or an EA, or you're getting ready to join a lodge and you join my group because you want to learn more about Masonic research and more about Masonry, and you want to come here and learn something, I have no problem whatsoever with that, okay? I think all of you who are speakers, who know well enough what you can talk about in a lodge room and what you can talk about in the dining room downstairs where women are present, where family members are present, where non-Masonic guests are present. And that's what every online presence should be. Just put yourself in the mindset, I'm not sitting in the lodge room, I'm sitting in the dining hall downstairs, and we're all mostly Masons, but we got non-Masons within earshot. And anything you can say at the dining table, you can say online or in some group online or some chat. And that's the way to look at it. We want to talk about Masonry to the end of the day, but we're just not going to say anything that's secret. And I think it's an easy rule to follow. But I want to encourage anybody to attend and be active, and don't feel like you have to stay out because you're not a Mason or because you don't think you're recognized by my Grand Lodge. It doesn't matter. So it's kind of hard to walk that line. Obviously, if somebody's coming here to disrupt stuff, they'll make themselves known really quick and we can kick them out. But I want to leave an open door to get as many of you in as possible so you can learn something. And if you're a problem, we can easily take care of you. I'm not too worried about people coming in and sabotaging our meeting. So we're probably not high enough profile. Anybody's going to notice us anyway. But that's just my take on how restrictive these meetings are, whether they're tiled or not. So any brother have any comments? Anything else you want to say?
For having me.
Okay. I do appreciate everybody. I see some nice comments here. I try not to monopolize the whole meeting, but yeah, I do like the fact that some of you are coming here every week, and some of you are mentioning that you're enjoying this as a regular thing. Here's something to consider. And we talked about the observance lodges. Any of you who belong to Allied Masonic Degrees, the AMD, if you've heard of them, they're invitation only. They're part of the Royal Arch. They're part of the York Rite. You have to belong to the Royal Arch, and then you get invited to join an AMD. You can only have 27 members in an AMD council. And sometimes you have a new member you want to bring in, and one of the older members has to actually retire and drop out so you can keep it to 27. The idea is there are never more than 27 members of any council, and you never get more than half of them in an actual meeting. But they're basically like a research lodge. You have a potluck dinner where the wives all come, you have your meeting for like an hour, and you have the social interaction before and after with the families. And they're a lot of fun. I greatly enjoy them. But I like the idea of you keep it small so everyone there is serious. Everyone wants to be there and wants to learn something. And I think you get further along where you want to go, as opposed to a lodge that has 300 members and 20 or 30 show up at every meeting, and a whole bunch of other people are just paying dues and they never show up. So something to consider as we're growing here. Are we better off getting 30 or so members at this Zoom meeting and it's the same 30 people week in, week out? Or would I be better off if I end up having some massive Zoom meeting that gets 500 people attending and I got several co-hosts and I never get to talk to any of you and never get to introduce anybody? I'm just going to introduce the speaker and the panel, and most of you never get to contribute. So that's something to think about. are we better off at the size we are right now? Are we going further with a small group, or is it worth pumping this up and trying to get hundreds of people to show up every week? Food for thought.
Great as a small group, Brother Chris.
Yeah. Well, I really don't control it. I can only drive in one general direction. But I do see there's some of you here regularly, and you're starting to come back every week. And I see from your comments you're enjoying it. So maybe we are building to something. And again, I don't want to be restrictive. We don't have to be. I really don't.
Hey, Brother Chris, just to let you know, if I'm not here, it's because I'm on another project. I do enjoy being here.
I recognize that. And in March, and I will announce this for those of you who do regularly attend, whenever another body is having an online meeting, if George Washington or A. Douglas Smith, when they tend to meet on the same time as us, when you all have a regular meeting, I will not hold a meeting, and I'll make sure everybody knows to attend yours instead. And I would love it if the people who are regularly attend with me go with me to visit Virginia Research Chapter in March. I'm actually speaking in March at Virginia Research Chapter. And when George Washington meets or A. Douglas Smith, I'd love it if you guys pay attention to the Zoom and to the group, and I say, we're all going to go here instead of having our meeting. I will not have a meeting if I know there's another research body meeting that day at that time. I will defer to them and ask you to join me and go visit them and show some support. And we'll probably get some of them to come back and visit us in return. So Saturday is a common time, but most of y'all are only meeting on your regular meeting times, which is every 3 or 4 months. So there'll be those opportunities, but we're not directly conflicting with anybody on a weekly basis. But that's kind of where I want to go. That's one of the things I want to do. So anybody else, anything they want to say? We're coming up on 11:45 already. I love these talks. They go long, and most of y'all seem to hang out for the duration, so that's great. But I can't spend all day on here. So I do want to kind of wrap it up. If anybody else has anything they want to offer before we go. Going once. Okay. Thank you all for participating. This has been great. This will be available on YouTube. I'm caught up, so this will be available on YouTube this week. And if you're not a member of the group, please join the group. I think most everybody here is, but I'm going to keep announcing that. And if you are joining the group, does not mean you automatically get the weekly papers. So if you're fine with reading them on the website, on the group page, that's fine. If you want to sign up for the emails and you will get notified about the Zoom meeting as well, then just message me on the group page. I'm going to go and put it's easier to get a hold of me on Facebook. Oh, and I'm PMing George as you dropped. Let me try this again. Okay, there's my email. I'll give you all a minute to grab that if you don't already have it. But please, and I'm serious when I say I want comments from you all, suggestions, anything for improving this. I have a lot of good ideas, and I'm going to try every one of them, and even the bad ones. We'll see where they work. But by all means, if you have any suggestions, I want to hear from you. This isn't just about me, just because I like to talk the most. This belongs to y'all too. So please, you have anything you want us to try, I welcome you to bring it up, and we'll try it. All right. Anyone else have anything to offer before we break? Thank you again, Brother Meek. We really enjoyed that. Thank you, Brian, for being my co-host. As always, my Ed McMahon to my Johnny Carson, my Paul Schaefer to my David Letterman. It's good to have you here, Brian. Appreciate your help. All right. Everybody take care. We'll see you all next week. Bye.
All right, guys. Have a nice day, brothers.
All right.
Take care, brothers.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good day.